South Dorchester friends, I have missed you all so terribly. I figured I would do something pretty cool and do this Draw with Mrs. Parrigin. So I'm going to do a series of 3 videos, one for primary, that's pre-K through 2nd grade, one for elementary, 3rd through 5th grade, and one for middle school. So each one will be a little bit harder. But if you're in primary grades and you want to try and do the elementary video, or if you're in elementary and you want to try the middle school video, please challenge yourself. None of this is for a grade. This is all just if you're bored and want to do something. So this week I thought that I would start with the subject of my puppy dog. And I chose her because in this crazy time of being stuck at home, she has given us lots of love, and we've been able to be a little more active because we take her for a walk at least once a day. So artists will tend to use resources, so I've printed out some pictures. This was her after her bath because she got really muddy one day last week. So this is a picture of her after her bath. So we're gonna break her down into our geometric shapes and draw her. So in the weeks to come, please by all means give me some suggestions. So far I've had the suggestion of turtles, so that will be next week's videos. So please send me an email or a message or whatever. And give me some suggestions on what you'd like to draw. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right, middle schoolers, we are going to do this a little more intensely. We're going to do a modified grid for our drawing. What I did was I took my original image, folded it in half again, and then made marks to be able to see my lines a little bit better. And then on my larger paper, I have also done a grid, modified grid. Now when I say modified, if I were going to make this an actual gridded drawing, I would measure out each an inch for each grid and grid the entire thing. So I'm trying to do this relatively quickly, so I'm not gonna take the time to do all of the grids when I kind of just eyeball it. All right, so most of you guys are more used to doing a transfer, so this is a little bit different for a lot of you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at my image and I'm gonna decide based on where the grid is, where I'm going to start. So I'm gonna start in this top grid here, and I notice that the top of her head is right about in this area. So I'm going to very lightly, I'm going to sketch out the top of her head. And I'll notice that on the original, the end point of her face is not quite half, but a little less than halfway of that grid. So if I were to kind of mark it here, I would know that I would want to end the nose right about here. Now the bottom of her mouth comes to about the bottom of this grid, or this box here. So I'm going to sketch that part out. Now this is just my sketching phase of the process. I'm definitely gonna need to go back and edit once I get things where I want them to be. So I'm going to draw the ear here. And her ear actually flips back on that ear. Alright, and her neck kind of goes in all 4 of them. I'm going to have her leg that comes out. And this is the kind of the rough sketch phase of this drawing. Okay, so now that I have it kind of how I feel like I want it, kind of edit some things here, like the shape of her nose a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and work on her eye, and she's got this crease kind of in her. Do little doggy eyelashes over there. Alright, so at this point I think I have most of the line work that I want. I can go in and erase that grid line. Now my picture, she appears to be a lot thicker, so I'm thinking it's probably the size of my sketchbook is a lot bigger than the image itself, so I can kind of modify by making her look a little thinner with some of the lines. Alright, so now I am, and we're trying to keep it really simple with using what we have at home, and I'm thinking that most everyone has a pencil, and then I'm thinking, you know, I'm an art teacher, so I definitely have blending stumps, but everybody has tissues or paper towels or something like that, so we can use that to do some shading. Now, remember that value is finding the lights and the darks of our image. So I'm looking at my image. Her nose and her eyes are definitely the darkest part of the picture, but I have some darker areas on the edge of my paper, or on the edge of my image. So I'm gonna hold my pencil to the side here, and I'm gonna just shade that in kind of a medium tone. Now it looks pretty scribbly right at this point, but I'm gonna, in a minute, I'm gonna use my tissue and I'm gonna blend that all in and kind of phase it into the rest of the dog's body. So now I'm gonna take my tissue, I'm gonna blend that all together. I'm gonna blend it into the rest of the dog. Now I might need to go into the rest of my dog a little bit, but this gives me a good starting point. I wanted to mention that I've had quite a few middle school parents showing me some things that you guys have been working on, and it really makes me happy that you guys are working on your own things. And please keep sending me stuff, because it makes me realize how important art really is to you guys, and that is like my whole point being a teacher, is to show how important art is to us. And when you guys are actually doing that, that kind of validates what I do. So thank you, and keep working on that art. It's amazing. All right, I'm gonna darken up her eyes a little bit. Now you'll notice in the original, and I've always told you guys, when you're doing eyes, always leave that twinkle, that light spark in the eye, because it makes whatever you're drawing look alive. So I'm gonna darken that. I'm gonna go ahead and darken up her nose too. I kind of feel like if I start with the dark, it gives me a good, it helps me with my pressure. Like, I can feel how hard to push, and then I know how to kind of ease up on the pressure too. And I'm able to, like in that instance, I can take my blending, whatever, tissue, and kind of go out from that. And it's interesting because my dog, she's actually called a Boxky. She's part boxer, part husky. And I kind of see the husky just in what I'm drawing here. I always can tell, like, when she's running at me, can see that husky in her. She's a very playful dog, very protective. She's a good dog, good breed. And we actually adopted her from the Humane Society in Wacomico County. So she's a rescue pup, and we were pretty excited when we found out that she was kind of a designer breed dog, because we didn't really expect that at the pound. Now, if you do have blending stumps and you feel more comfortable using those, by all means. I'm just trying to use the tissue so that, you know, people who don't have that at home, you know, they don't feel like they can't do it because they don't have those materials at hand. And you guys could take it a step further, and you could do some texture in her fur if you wanted to be a little more about texture itself and not just about value. You could apply that as well. And this is your project. I mean, I'm just kind of giving you the basics on how to do this, but I mean, this will totally be your image. And I mean, if you want to do your own type of dog or your own creature or animal, you can see how to modify that grid so it makes it a little bit easier to do. And I don't know if, I think I mentioned before, next week we will be working on turtles. I know Miss Todd will be very excited about that. Maybe you guys could share some of your turtles with her. Now you see I'm going back over spots just to make it a little bit darker. And there's some ways in that, like in this area and around her eye, I'm just gonna kind of leave that as pencil. I don't need to blend every single thing. And like, I feel like her eye is just not quite dark enough, so I'm gonna go back in. In fact, I'm gonna use, sometimes a mechanical pencil can get pretty dark. There we go, yeah. I don't usually like to draw with mechanical pencils. It seems kind of harsh to use. They're almost like it really bores into the paper. So I try not to use mechanical pencils too much, but for this instance, I want to get that nice and black. So I'm going to go ahead and use that mechanical pencil there. That's same with her nose. Now if I wanted to add in some of that texture, you can kind of see some of the lines. You don't want to fill in too much, but you can just kind of sporadically, you know, add in. The thing about fur, it's organic, so it's like kind of no real perfect pattern on how to make it. But you can see like in her chest part, like she's got these little ridges. Sorry, I kind of get into it and then my paper moves all around. Alright, I think I'm going to stop there. You can think about what you want to do with your background. My gut is kind of telling me something solid, maybe darker, medium dark, just to kind of fill in that space. Or you can create a background. Maybe you want to think about where you want your puppy dog to be. Maybe you want her to be in a park somewhere. You know. Just think about what kind of background, you know, play around with it. The nice thing about having a YouTube video to do this is you can pause it and go back and fast forward and do whatever it is you need to do, or just watch my very crazy technique, which is kind of all over the place, I will admit. But if you want something a little easier, there's the elementary. And the primary video is pretty like a cartoon of a dog, and then elementary is a little bit harder. So if this is a little too challenging, you know, there's more actual guided technique with those two videos. And I'm actually posting these as videos for kids, so it will not allow for comments, you know, to protect my sweet babies. So if you do have any feedback, you know, please have your parents email me, or you can email me, or send me a message on Facebook, whatever, to send me some feedback. If there's something you would like me to draw, some sort of topic that you'd like me to draw instead of, you know, animals. Maybe you want to try some people, you know, that's my forte. Would be more than happy to give you some pointers on that. I like this kind of glow around the edge, so I'm going to kind of extend that down her leg too a little bit. And I know that was pretty fast, and I could do more detail, but I'm going to stop for today. If you have any comments, again, just let me know. If you want to add color, like I said, I was keeping it very simple with the materials that I figured most people had at home. So if you have color pencils and you want to add color to your animal, or your dog, Please, if you have markers, crayons, chalk, pastel, whatever, and that's totally, this is your work, this is your art, so you determine what you want to do with it, what you want to go the next step, if at all. All right, I have had a blast drawing with you today. I look forward to seeing or drawing with you next week. Not really seeing you, I wish I could. But I hope everybody stays nice and safe. I hope everybody is healthy, and I look forward to drawing with you again next week.